Hey, it's Thomas11 for another batch of updated LEGO Kalos Pokemon. Here are the Pyroar, Florges, and Gogoat lines. Megas will be made separately at a later point, and then updated tutorials following that. So first we have Litleo. I do not like this Pokemon. Ever since it was first introduced, I've just had an irrational hatred of the way it looks. I really like Pyroar, but I just do not like Litleo. I think it's probably the eyes. I really don't like the way the light of the eyes, I think that's what it would be. The white parts in the center are just so dead center. Female Pyroar. So I probably could have done something to make more dynamic looking ears, but I just really liked the shape of this piece for the head. And similar build, but with a different head, is male Pyroar. Well, the main piece of the head is still the same, but the rest of the head build is different for the main. This is one of those weird cases where I actually prefer the design of one form, but then I like the Lego build of the other better. In this case, I prefer the design of female Pyroar, but I like the Lego build that I have for male Pyroar better. Flabebe. So because this thing is so ridiculously tiny, there wasn't any pieces that actually fit this, so what I did was took the top part of a long rod piece and cut off both ends, and then stuck it into a flower. If you want this to be one of the other forms, you could just use a different color flower piece. And this is what I used to make it, just to be clearer about that. Took just this part here. And Floette. So this one also had to be modified a little bit. So to get the flower to stick in at the right point on this, I had to cut about half of the length off of one side of this. Since unfortunately the flower pieces are not hollow. If they were, then I could have just slid it down. And it actually would have been better because then the part at the top could have come up to be the pollen parts of the flower. I forget what they're called. But yeah, Floette's really tiny, so this is just 3 pieces. And then Eternal Flower Floette. This one I did not need to modify it. And I used a shuriken for the flower. Florges. So this is a completely new build for Florges. The old one that I had really didn't work too well, so I just completely redid it. Some of the parts I kept the same as the old build, but for the most part I just completely rebuilt it. Since the other one was actually built upside down. You can find it in some old videos if you want, but this one is much, much more accurate looking. The build of the old one also had parts that wore off over time because they were not connected correctly. So that was the main motivation to completely redo it without having that. I don't think this really needs a tutorial. You can pretty clearly see what the parts are here. Skiddo or Skidoo, I think it's officially supposed to be Skidoo, even though it's spelled Skiddo. Very cute goat. And lastly, Gogoat. So this one, I redid the entire head design to give it more interesting looking horns. The old design I had for the head was a lot simpler. It didn't have a proper nose like this. I wanted to make the nose 3D and then give it more dynamic looking horns instead of just the old one used 1x2s like this. So I wanted to make it thinner and more accurate. So if you swapped this off for a 1x1 here and then you just took this part off, you could probably fit a minifigure on it. So I'll have updated tutorials for Pyroar and Gogoat at some later point. It won't be right away, but I will be doing updated tutorials for them eventually. Whereas everything else here doesn't really need any tutorials. And again, megas will also be made at a later point. Not sure when I'll get to those yet, but then after I make the megas, then I'll also have the updated tutorials. If you want to see all the other LEGO Kalos Pokemon I've done so far, then check out the playlist on your left, and see you next time!